All right then, everyone. Welcome to the To Hull and Back podcast after what happened on Friday night, and we'll talk more about that as we go through the next sort of hour. We are, of course, proudly sponsored by Kingfisher Fish and Chips and Old Zoological Bar, both in Hull, and you can join us on Wednesday on our Humber Wave radio show, Tigers Talk, with Adi and Paul over there. But the main episode tonight, we're live. There's myself, Ant, and then we've got Christian, who, in case you haven't listened in to any of the Tigers Talk bits on Humber Wave, also streamed across all these platforms that you're watching on now over the past few weeks. Christian has become a pretty regular feature on there, and to give us an extra opinion tonight in the absence of Nathaniel, Will, and Tom, we thought he can jump on here as well. See if he enjoys it as much as the Wednesday. And then we're joined by Tom T Thresh, who you know what, Tom?
TikTok superstar.
You explain what you do.
Usually just doing TikToks, just outside the MKM Stadium, speaking to the fans and stuff. And it's been doing really well. So
I've seen you a couple of times. I've seen you on the TikTok For You page interviewing fans about how long they think Tim Walter could have left at the football club and what they would do if they were adjun right now. But first things first, on a main episode, we haven't spoken since Steven Alzate was signed. And you went on Tigers Talk when we discussed this the other night. Me and Christian were, so we'll come to you and Tom first. And first of all, what do you think of that signing?
I think it's quite a shrewd bit of business. I like Alzate. I remember when he came through at Brighton at the first time, and he was one of those players that fit the typical Brighton bill, where it was, quite an unknown name that manages to come to the Premier League and looks a real good find. I think he spent the last couple of years in Belgium, I believe. And the Brighton fans are all saying pretty much the same thing, that he's got massive amounts of ability, but he tailed off towards the end, which is why he ended up getting shipped out to Belgium kind of thing. But you don't go to a club like Brighton because their recruitment policy is just spot on. You do not go there if you haven't got something about you at the minute. Obviously, he's allowed himself to tail off a bit, which is now why he's a free agent. But to sign him on a free at this level, I think is a great bit of business and gives us loads of depth in the middle. I mean, preferably a striker probably would have been the one we needed to bring in, but with Zambrano facing that bit of uncertainty over his ban or whatever it is, we don't quite know what's going on with that. So it's good to bring somebody else in just in case, so we're not left a little bit light in the middle. Obviously, with the transfer window being shut, it was a smart move to make, especially on a free.
Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for a free transfer, I think you really can't argue with it. And I feel like from what we've just seen on Friday, we saw that Finn Burns was kind of playing in that CDM type role. And it's just something that we don't really want. We kind of need a proper CDM in there, especially with Serigon now, just getting the experience within the club, getting a bit of depth. Like I say, we could have done with a striker or just somewhere else. I feel like that position really is filled up now, which, like I say, is a positive, but you've got to look at it and say, well, why didn't we pick up, so-and-so in a different position? I think it is a good signing, but I feel like we could have done maybe a bit of different business elsewhere.
Yeah. I mean, the striker comment is one on which everyone in this fan base agrees. That's for sure. But I just sort of think there are very few strikers who will be available on free transfers who can get you the goals that we want out of a striker that we are to bring in. And Tom, you mentioned Finn Burns playing in holding midfield, obviously a centre-back by trade, but did that role for Stevenage in League One last year. He dropped Zambrano for Burns to come in, and I understand why Walter did that. You're moving Abush central, and Malam's a more advanced player as well. So you're sort of putting a centre-back in there to give us a bit more defensive solidity in theory. It was incredibly harsh to drop Zambrano. Christian, do you agree with my assessment of it? And what did you make of Burns' performance? Because to me, he looked a bit of a passenger at times.
Yeah, actually, I will agree with the with that respect to being a passenger, I think though that's still down to the system. With us going past and bypassing the central midfield all the time. I think that's still something that's, with respect to Burns, you're going to get bypassed. And if Zambrano was there, probably the same situation. He probably would have got bypassed as well. Do I feel that he did a better job than Oscar Zambrano? You can't make that call with respect to how much they were non-existent really on the pitch. Really, you can't make that call. Would have Zambrano done a better job? Well, maybe if the ball came to his feet, he might have done something different. But the way it was being played on Friday, like I said, being bypassed is the key word. He was a passenger.
It's been tested out as well. I feel like it's a calling that he had to obviously try out that senior position for Hull and just see how it works. And we've tried it now. We've seen what's happened, and we move on, and hopefully we can get a bit of a change next game against Stoke.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he included Burns because with Sheffield United being such a large, physically imposing side, and we are a very, very small team. I think he looked and thought we need extra height in the box. Obviously, they had threats all over the pitch. I mean, that Suits is an absolute beast, didn't he? I couldn't believe how big he was. But the only height we've got in our team is Maka and Jones, and even for centre halves, I think they're quite small. So Burns going in the middle. No, they're no Harry Suter. I mean, I think Jonesy struggled all game against Kiefer Moore as well. I think that was one of Jonesy's worst games for us. I mean, he's up against a quality striker. I mean, look how good he was. Watching Kiefer Moore for them really made me sad that we didn't manage to sign him because he's exactly what we need. His hold-up play, his link-up play, his threat, everything about Kiefer Moore's game was spot on. But yeah, he gave our centre-halves a proper toy time all game. But I think he put Burns in purely just for that little bit of threat at set pieces and that little bit more stability in defending set pieces. But yeah, he did struggle. But I think that's a thing of our midfield this season because if I know you follow Gabe, Joe. Gabe Sutton on Twitter, he tweeted about how bizarre our style of play is because we try and play out from the back, but we don't really use the midfield ever. And I've not actually noticed it until he mentioned it. We go across the back four, use the goalkeeper as the extra option, whereas last season would have used Seri as the pivot or Morton. They use the goalkeeper instead. So we play it amongst the goalkeeper, the centre backs, out to the full back down the wing. If that don't work, we go back to the defence, back across and back up the other wing. We don't go through the middle ever. And you'll notice it more and more now that we play it. And it's because, and when we're coming away from games saying, well, our midfield weren't really involved in that match, it's because we don't use them. Like, I think someone brought up the passing stats from the Leeds game. Like last year, I think they made nearly 150, 200 passes combined, our midfield. And this year, it wasn't even 50 combined. So that's the difference. We don't seem to use that. That number 6 role isn't used as a bridge between defence and attack. Our midfield seems to be used as like an engine to win the ball back, and that's it. So maybe that's where we're going wrong. Maybe he needs to start using the midfield a bit more.
Oscar puts in comments about Gustavo Puerta. That one Tim Walter said was selection-based. We'll cover some of the other absentees while we're at it. Charlie Hughes has had to go in for surgery for what we think is an appendix-related issue. So hopefully he's back soon. Wish him a speedy recovery. Carl Rushworth had what Tim Walter described as a bruise. And he said sort of nothing more than that. And he said he would probably be back for Stoke.
God, I'd love a day off for a bruise.
The other two were injury related, of course. But were you surprised not to see Gustavo Puerta involved?
Yeah, definitely.
Honestly, I don't think I was. I think I wasn't really expecting too much against Sheffield. I was expecting like kind of something a little bit new. Maybe not Finn Burns in CDM, but I feel like Silver mentioned about having Seri and Morton last season, and going into this new season, we really don't have kind of that proper CDM where we can use, and it's starting to show just a little bit now. And I feel like these players really need to start coming into the team and just kind of gelling together, because obviously the result isn't really showing. So,
and thoughts?
I don't know, because the team selection's so it's impossible to predict what team he's going to play sometimes, because especially in midfield, because obviously at the minute that's where all the depth is. But Puerta was a player that's
it's the area where there's loads of depth, but
yeah,
none of them touch the ball all game.
Yeah, exactly. So we seem to have reinforced that area of the pitch where we don't actually use it, which is quite bizarre. But yeah, no, Puerta came in obviously with a lot of hype. Like, he's a player that we think can come in here and really make a difference. And yeah, for him not to be included was a bit of an eye opener. But like I say, I think maybe he's looked at Sheffield United and thought maybe this isn't in this kind of games to throw him into, because he might struggle, kind of thing. I don't think, obviously, both the new wingers had to play on the basis of Miller played in the early hours of midweek against for Canada, so he was a bit jet lagged. I think he would have started if not, because I think both wingers really struggled in the first half as well. So it is tough when you're playing against, you know, a proper seasoned veteran team like Sheffield United to chuck somebody like Puerta in. But to bring him on off the bench maybe would have been something we'd have all liked to have seen. But we don't realistically know what our strongest team is. We don't know what player each player offers. We don't know what Walter's wanted from him yet, because I don't think we've seen anything near the style that we're meant to be getting from him yet, which is bizarre. But you know, with us doing the transfer business and stuff so late, it's just a case of he'll be on that training pitch now, finding out who does best in what position and who's going to make the best link ups and whatnot. But yeah, no, it was. I did expect Puerta to be involved in some capacity, so that was quite an eye opener.
Yeah, you mentioned the wingers there as well. Two on debut: Abu Kamara, more predominantly a right winger, but had to play on the left, and Mohamed Belloumi. They had quiet debuts, but in different ways. Kamara just like got on the ball a little bit in the first half. That was that. And then Belloumi, he had a shot saved in the second and gave the ball away for their first goal. So, I mean, like you say, and there's still more to come from the system, but the wingers had very sort of subpar debuts, didn't they?
It's a massive ask to come into a game like that and make a real impact. Like it's a really, really tough game to come into. I think we all expected them both to start. It was interesting that we decided to play Kamara on the left instead of the right, because, like you say, he's predominantly a right-sided midfielder, and I think some Portsmouth fans were saying that as well. They're saying get him on the right-hand side and he's lethal. I did expect when they were making the changes, when I saw Miller was coming on, I did expect it to be Belloumi that was going off. I thought the manager might try and protect him. Obviously, after the mistake, I thought, I'll take him out the shadow, the spotlight a bit, kind of thing. But he made the decision to change Kamara instead. Obviously, thought Belloumi was giving us more going forwards. I think you saw bright glimpses of what they're capable of. But like you say, it's really hard to judge any of these players, because a lot of them are, I mean, most of them are coming from, you know, a different country, and they're having to settle into a new way of life, a new culture, a new club, new players that they've never played with, and then get chucked into a bruiser team like Sheffield United. So, yeah, I expect them both to make, obviously, improvements game by game, but that'll be the same for the rest of the squad, because we can't really get much worse, can we, at the minute?
Summed up perfectly. Before we address like the elephant in the room of Walter's style of play and stuff like that, I want to talk a little bit about, I want to ask you all a little bit about Abush, who, as a 10, we talk about the midfield not having a lot of the ball, and on the right, Abush had the problem of not having any of the ball, being isolated. And even though the midfield got bypassed, Abush was in the game quite a lot. I thought he touched the ball he must have touched the ball in that game more than he has for the rest of the season. But you watch on their first goal, when Belloumi gives the ball away, Abush is in a position where he can chase Gustavo Harmer down, and he doesn't. Last season, Abush was all over the place, buzzing about, putting tackles in, fighting for every ball. And that's a simple thing where it doesn't matter about being organised or anything like that. You just got to try and stop that ball going forward, stop that man going forward. And people in chat there saying he's got no end product. What do we think about Abush in that game specifically and in a Valter system overall? Why do you think he wasn't tracking back for that? Is it because of the way Rossini had them playing and pressing and stuff like that? Or is it just they're not buying into Valter's way of playing the same way that the group were all on side with Rossini's? What do we all think? Start with you, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, I do rate him as a player. But at the same time, I feel like that type of game against Sheffield, he just doesn't really have kind of that defensive aspect about him. He's obviously, as we know, he's more of an attacking player. And I feel like I go to last season a lot because it's really hard to like compare when there's not really been many games as of yet to really kind of state how they're all doing. But like I say, if you compare it to last season, yeah, you know, he was up and down, and I feel like he also had kind of that having the CDMs and stuff, and being able to have a bit of trust in them. And I just feel like maybe as time's going on now, I think not just him, I feel like quite a few of the players are just slowly starting to like think, well, you know, what's the point anymore? It doesn't really seem like anyone's really up for it compared to last season. And I'm really hoping that starts to change. Whether that's down to a new manager, I'm not too sure. But yeah, something's really got to start changing soon, because I think there wasn't many players in that team that really seemed fully up for it, to be honest. Well, like I say, maybe because it was against Sheffield, quite a decent side. I'm not too sure. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens against Stoke and kind of go from there, I guess.
Yeah, Christian, Abush, what are your thoughts?
I can only speculate with obviously what you stated with the chasing back and everything, because it does seem to come across when you're watching on the sidelines like he didn't try to come back. I get that. But then it also seems, because of how kind of disorganized everything was in the middle and at the back and being exposed, there was only like ever one defender at the back at times. It kind of also looked like, well, is that my job? Should someone have been there? And I'm not saying that he didn't commit in that way, but did he kind of look up and expect somebody else to be there? And because he wasn't on the front foot to catch up, did he not kind of commit that as well? I don't know. It is a player mentality thing, and it is a kind of a gelling and practice working together. It seems like they did practice with the crossing pass here. You know, there was a lot more balls being thrown into the box. But defensively, on Friday night, it didn't come across like anything was actually ever spent, or any time ever even looked at situations of being counter-attacked or overloaded, or anyone actually coming back for cover. And with respect to Omar in that situation, because he's been put in that kind of attacking, that number 10 attacking role almost, with him meant to be that far up the pitch, should he have been the one there as well? Yeah. It's hard to say. Like you've got pretty much a cam asking to chase back because you've got no centre backs there. It's a big jump in position wise for that. It's a mental thing, I think, at the moment with this transition going through, and I don't know if the players are slowly going to buy into it, or players are starting to see gaps and be like, this doesn't feel right. And because it doesn't feel right, I don't want to call it effort, because you can see the effort when they're playing, but it is that me? Should I have been there, or should
it's demotivation, isn't it?
Thank you. Yeah, it is. It's demotivation. And when players are like demotivated, you'd sub them usually. You would straight away if you can see that. You would look at them and go, they're not in it for today.
None of them really up for it in my eyes. Like, no, I mean, like you say, you've just mentioned about he's an attacking player that he feels like he maybe has to come back because there isn't them. We don't have them proper defensive duties in place. So, like I say, we'll really have to just see what happens against, and hopefully we can start getting different players in. It's still early doors with these players, but I think I don't know when we're going to talk about Tim Volta, but it's
being that's going to come up.
I've got a few things to say about that. So
Don't mind going about the position.
I've beaten around the bush for long enough, haven't I? And I will get there. But short corners, we had this discussion on here against Leeds, and Nathaniel whipped out his Tifo football book and said that short corners, you're statistically more likely to score from a short corner, yada, yada, yada. They didn't expect Hull City to be this bad when they did that stat. So we have brought that stat right down. Are we all in agreement that the cheer when the first corner that went into the box got put in there was funny and they need to be binned?
And we actually almost scored from that corner as well. And it wasn't even just that. It was like the fans physically were asking for them to put the ball in the box. So before the cheer, the fans behind the corner flag, you could see them just saying, put it in the box. There is visible frustration. Short corners for me never ever make sense. They need to get in the bin immediately. It is to have a free, uncontested chance of a cross into the box to your big guys and then not take it, to me, is lunacy. There is absolutely no reason for a short corner for me unless it's to do it quickly. I think I was talking to a Borough supporting mate earlier, and he was saying that they used to do it quite often under Karanka, but it was because what they would do is they'd play it short and it would be a 1-2, so to give the person taking the corner a bit more of a better angle to whip it in. But they're like literally it's 1-2 quick straight in. So they're not dilly-dallying it with it like what we do. We pass it to one, then pass it to the next guy, then pass it to the next guy, and then the chance seemingly is gone because you've moved it central. Like, I can't understand why we're doing what we're doing with the corners. But then even saying that, when we started putting it in the box, we seem to be aiming at the near post every time. There's a lot of people saying we're not beating the first man. But I think he's been told to aim at the near post. I think what we're trying to do is aim at the near post and get a flick on. And then obviously if you flicked on into the box, any touch probably is going goalwards. But it's really hard to win that first header because they usually put 2 or 3 men on the first post. So that, again, just our set pieces in general are absolutely dreadful. And the fact that we had 16 corners and 2 of them ended up in the back of our own net is just unforgivable. Like once in a game that's a bad mistake. Twice in a single game for it to end up in the back of your own net that is a problem. There is something wrong with the set piece training that's going on. The players obviously aren't understanding what's required of them, and I think that's not even just in a set piece nature. I think we were just talking then about maybe a lack of are they motivated and tracking back and stuff. To me, it looks like there's confusion. It doesn't look like the players really understand what they're meant to be doing. So is that because of the fact that there's so many newbies coming in and everyone's kind of just not really got that connection yet, or is it a lack of direction from the coaching team and the manager? Because to me, it just looks like he's always so animated on the sideline, and if he's that angry throughout the entire game, then that means the players aren't doing what he wants them to do. And game by game by game, we're seeing we're not creating chances. We're really susceptible on the counter. We're really disorganised and quite chaotic. And that to me just says that they're not really understanding what Walters wants them to do.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of them corners, you've just mentioned, Dan, there's been 16 corners in that game, which is mad. I knew there was a lot, but 16 corners in a game really is something. But it made me realise that in the game, it's like we was kind of asking for corners. You saw Coyle running on the right, and he was like, they kind of do that thing where they're whipping the ball in, but they know that the ball's not going to go anywhere. They're just hoping that's going to go out for a corner. Like they're expecting a corner. And as that was going on, each corner, it was just every single time, it wasn't great. I don't feel like them short corners was obviously, we didn't, we've not learned our lesson from Leeds, which is just horrible. And the fact we're still doing it as well means that Tim Volta is just really, he's very direct with wanting short corners, or whether it's a set piece coach. I don't know what's going on, but the short corners obviously have to stop. And I mean, to get the ball in the box, do we have the right players? Do we have the players that can head the ball in properly against a team like Sheffield with Kiefer Moore, Sousa, all these big players that they have. So I understand the short corner aspect, but at the same time, yeah, I mean, what are they doing in training? Do you know, are they actually working on corners? Like, what are they doing? You know what I mean?
A short corner once or twice a game as a variation. If you've had quite a few corners and you wanted to mix it up, then fair enough, you can kind of accept that. But it seems to be our preferred choice of corner, which is the concerning thing. They would much rather do a short corner than just get it in the box, and I can't really understand why.
I feel if I tell you what, and if we didn't concede that goal from a corner, I feel like them 16 corners, the majority would have been short.
Yeah, the 100%. I think Jimmy said after the game the record for the amount of corners in an English League game was 20. So we were 4 short of that.
We were nearly there.
It was Wigan or something.
I didn't 16. It's a joke. 16 corners and we couldn't do it. I couldn't do a single thing. Couldn't do anything.
Well, we've been horrendous from set pieces for years. The last time we were any good at set pieces was League One. And it's if you look at like where differences can be made, like last season, for example, if we were slightly better in 1 or 2 games at set pieces, we'd have made the top 6. These extra points and extra goals that you get from set pieces are so crucial throughout the season. There can be the difference between meeting an objective or falling short, as we've seen. I think last season we were so poor. This season we were so poor. We just we don't seem to have like goal scoring centre backs either, especially now that Greavy's gone. Jonesy and Maka get nowhere near enough goals for me for set pieces. They don't even look threatening. It's you look at the team and the height and we all get frustrated in a game, and I do, about saying why aren't we crossing the ball? But who are we crossing it to? I mean, Badir looks a big handful now, and I think we should be trying to utilise him more. But our issue is at the minute is that the end product, the quality of that final pass and the quality of the cross is horrendous. Like I said, I think someone just said there was 40 odd crosses and 7 times it met its target. Like, that's bad. It's so bad. Like, I just can't understand why we've got. I mean, it's not even like we've got players that can't cross a ball. Giles had 20 odd assists in 2 seasons from left back, and he looks absolutely dire. I feel like we need to talk about Ryan Giles because this is going to be a big subject.
It's the next thing I want to speak about. He got pulled off at half time for Cody Drama. Does that, to me, that signifies Ryan Giles isn't going to be in this team for a little while. And it also signifies Tim probably doesn't have that much confidence in Matty Jacob either, if he's brought Drama on, who's naturally a right back. Christian, I know you were eager to talk about this, so you can have the floor.
Sorry, you guys all cut out. Is that to me?
Oh, yeah, you can have the floor.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the connection just went all a bit crazy there, guys. First half, Giles. How can I sum it up? First 10 minutes, 6 passes, 5 of them didn't make it to their target. So out of 6, 5 of them were a bad pass, and he lost the ball. On going forward, did anybody see an overlap? I think I saw one.
But I don't think that's just unique to Ryan Giles. I don't see any overlaps.
No, he does. Coyle overlaps all the time. Coyle is far more of an offensive fullback than Ryan Giles is. And if you'd have said that sentence a year ago, people would have laughed at you. Louis Coyle is, at the minute, our most offensive threat.
Yeah. Even last week, I do not hate Coyle when I say this, but I am like, Coyle usually for me plays quite negatively. He plays backwards a lot. Friday, he was the most attacking player and gave the most effort and came back and tried the hardest. He was the one player that I could have looked at on Friday and gone, you put in a good shift. This is me saying that for Coyle. You know,
the difference between them two is that Coyle wants to be here. Giles does not want to be.
Exactly. Giles, you can see it in Giles's face. And when things go wrong, you can just hands up in the air, or whatever. Doesn't even look at the game. It just turns his back. And that halftime sub, I think I was calling for it after 20 minutes to get Giles off. I think he's going to be having quite a bit of a break. You can tell, and again, I'm guessing with the Miller situation, again, from coming back from international with Canada and coming on in the second half, I kind of get that. But you can still see that kind of the Giles and Miller not getting along, not with that passing situation and how it was from the previous week.
Yeah, absolutely.
You could just see that attitude, and now he's brought it into this game as well, and then he's made so many mistakes. It doesn't look good for him with the 2 weeks he's just had at all. And I can see him, I think Drama, he did 5 times more. Drama, sorry, did 5 times more. Instant, yeah, it was instant. And that's the thing. And we can say the second half was a lot better. We can all say the second half was a lot better than the first, because the first was just diabolical. I mean, don't get me wrong. Yes, crosses, yes, more attacking, and more possession. But that threat from anything from that build-up on that left-hand side just wasn't there, was it? At all. And when we're bypassing the midfield and we're meant to be using the wings, if you've got no threat there, what's the point of having him on the pitch if he's not giving anything?
Yeah. Miller struggles. Miller struggles because of Giles. I think. Yeah. If you play with inverted wingers, so you want your winger to get the ball, and Miller's going to want to naturally cut inside on his right foot. I mean, he's good either side. Miller, he will take it on the outside as well. But to have that option and then it should be a match made in heaven, that left hand side. Miller should be able to cut inside and offer a threat in either shooting or putting like an in-swinging cross to the far post or something like that. And then Giles should be given that option on an overlap, taking a defender away with him so that he leaves Miller one-on-one with his defender, but he just doesn't do it. Is it because he don't want to be here? Is it because he don't understand the system? Ryan Giles, for us, even last season, he got dropped for Matty Jacob. Like, he's not been good for us at all in the City shirt. He had the 1 assist, I think, Rotherham away for Ohio. Other than that, he's offered us. We signed him as an attacking fullback. The lad can't defend, so he has to be in the team to provide goals. Yeah. And he's not doing that. So he's offering us literally nothing at the minute, Giles. And if you don't want to be here, then why was the club not trying to get rid of him? I can understand we paid, what, 4.5 mil for him or something, and they're probably not going to want to sell him for, cheap, because they'll want to recoup as much of that as possible. And Borough were probably like, well, no, I'm not paying that for him. And now we're stuck with him. But you shouldn't do loans with obligations to buy. It should always be an option, because if they don't work out, like Giles hasn't, I mean, especially not for £4 million, a championship team, obligation to buy for £4 million is crazy, because that's a large sum of money at this level. It's really hindered us.
Yeah,
I mean, in terms of that left back position, personally, I am a fan of. I like Giles as a player. Obviously, recently it's really not been great for him, and I think that kind of goes down to the system and what Tim Walter wants to play. Because is he wanting wing backs to go push up and overlap, or is he wanting them to stay back? We don't know. We don't know if it could be you could be telling Coyle to stay back, but he's been up and down. We don't know what really is going on, because there's not a clear direction within that team. And I feel like, in terms of Matty Jacob, I'm not a big fan of Matty Jacob. I don't really want to see him at that left back role. I'd rather see Drama there, if anyone. I think, like I say, when he came on, straight away, he was just, he wanted it. He was up and down. And I think against Stoke, I want to see him there in the left back role. And I think, you mentioned a little bit about Liam Miller. And I think Liam Miller, we know what he can do. And without being too negative, I have a big issue with Liam Miller and his weak foot. If you really,
he's afraid.
If you really watch him play, count how many times he touches it with his left foot. He doesn't do it, and he cuts inside every time. And it's just, when we've got someone like Bedia in the box, who is physical and can win headers, it's not really great. It doesn't suit the system. So I think to have Liam Miller, a right-footed player, and then Cody Drama is right-footed as well, right? To have him on in left back as well, it's going to cause issues. So there's a serious issue on this left-hand side, and throughout the next few games, we're going to start seeing it a lot more. Because I don't think we have a left back and a say left wing, left mid that can really play together. I don't know what's going to happen come Friday against Stoke, but I don't particularly want to see Liam Miller in the squad as of yet. I think we need to just sort this left back out and kind of go from there and just see what Tim Bolter does.
Yep. I mean, Giles, look, he's clearly a good championship player, but for whatever reason, his record proves that, but for whatever reason, it's just not happening for him here at the moment. Archie says that when Casey Palmer came on, we looked a little bit better. I'd agree. He was the one player I thought, oh, wow, he's seen a ball through the defence for someone to put a cross in. And then I think it was either Drama or Miller put the cross in, and it just sort of went to nobody. I
mentioned about us not playing down the middle and stuff, and I feel like when Palmer's on the pitch, he kind of drives it down the middle. That's where he wants it, and I want to see a lot more.
Going.
Yeah,
the ball went in a lot more from the width to actually inside when Palmer was on the pitch, and he was everywhere. He was actually everywhere. When I don't know if you've gone back and watched the highlights, guys, but even watching it live, like if the ball was up, he was up. If the ball was back, he was back. And he was always there to receive the pass. He was always either the first or the second man to receive that pass. He was moving everywhere. And Palmer has to. After that performance, it wasn't a great performance from anybody, but he had the energy to keep doing that. And if you've got a central midfielder that's actually putting yourself in that situation, in the right positioning to receive a pass, maybe that is that gatekeeper of a player to actually force that ball inside to bring everybody in play.
Absolutely, yeah. He just seems like such a must in this squad. He seems like someone we really need. Like I say, I mentioned about we've had so many corners. We obviously had 16 corners because we was going down the wings so much and whipping the ball in, and they was obviously clear. And that's why we had so many corners, because we was going down the wings. Bringing in someone like Casey Palmer, playing down that middle with Betty there as well. I think it needs to happen. He needs to start playing in these games.
Shall we get to it then? We've done 40 minutes.
We'll get there. Go on.
Tim Walter, as a manager, the system. Well, Tom, I know you said you had something you wanted to say earlier, so we'll go to you first.
Yeah. I'll start off by mentioning I put a little TikTok up. Quite a few people have seen it and obviously commented on it. Just got a few opinions as well. And around 4 months ago, when he came in, I said that I didn't see him working in Hull. He's never managed the Championship. He's done a few things in Germany, and we got told that we're going to play obviously a certain play style. Aggressive, fast, up and down the pitch, lots of goals compared to Rosenior. Now, I think Rosenior ball is probably funner to watch than like Tim Bolter's football. Like genuinely, I'm really struggling to watch Hull play under Bolter, and all the fans that I spoke to, a lot of them say they want him out. They want Tim Bolter out of the club. He's maybe not a bad manager, but he's really not suiting Hull, and it's just not working at all. And you could argue and say, we played Sheffield, Leeds, and he mentioned about how this was probably our best game that we've played, which was a very interesting comment, which I'm sure some of you will talk about. Was it the best game we've played? It wasn't at all. I understand what he's saying, and he's trying to be positive. But a comment like that, when we've just lost a game 2-0, it's really not good. It's really not good.
And the team have been booed off, both at half-time and at full-time. I mean, whatever you think of booing, that's up to you. But the fact of the matter is, he said that's the best game of football we've played under him. And the fans decided en masse that it was the right thing to do to express their disapproval for what they just saw. And look, for me, it's an awkward one. I think because of the amount of upheaval there's been and the late arrivals, 13 signings in August, 1 in September, I think it's only right that he gets given 10 or 15 games. He's had 5 or 6, if you include the League Cup. I'm going to give him 5 or 6 more.
It's too many.
Which I think is, well, for me, that's the sort of rational thing to do. But at the moment, I cannot see a way, based on what I've seen so far, where this just all of a sudden clicks and turns a corner and gets better. I don't see how this team scores goals. I stand by the fact I don't think Badir and Bairstow will get 10 goals between them this year in the Championship. I don't see where goals come from. And more importantly, I don't see where wins come from at this moment in time. I hope I'm wrong and I hope things change, but I just don't see a feasible way in which they can just turn a corner. Beating Stoke and or Cardiff are critical. Cardiff have had a worse start than us. They have 1 point. And Errol Buller is under pressure. But before that, we've got Stoke, who are a perennially average Championship team. We have to beat one of those 2 teams. Simply have to.
Yeah, I think it's sorry to jump in, Joe. I think it's difficult because when you're a fan of a football team, we're all emotionally invested and we're all very reactive, and I can be more than most. It's just sometimes this season is a capitulation of a lot of things. We are suffering the repercussions for failing to get the top 6 last year. We had a fantastic team of players. If you look at probably the squad value for what they've been sold for and things like that, we're probably looking at 150 to 200 million pound team last year, and we didn't make the top 6. We won 3 of our 13. I think the current anger stems from the fact that even for the last 6 months of last season, we were poor. So we've only won twice at home in 2024. That was to Blackburn in January, and then Millwall somewhat later on. And that's it.
Blackburn was in December.
Was it in December? So we won. I know we've won twice this year. I can't remember. Millwall and somebody else. QPR, I think it was. Won at QPR.
Since we last got a win, what is it now?
Since the 24th of April, Coventry away was the last time we won. And this is what I mean. So, look, we finished with 3 wins in 13 last season. So we finished the season in poor form. We started the season in poor form under a different manager. So he's currently receiving all the hate for that as well. It is, for me, he at the minute does not look like this style is suited to the league. But you've also got to, because we're Hull City fans, we're looking at it from an emotional standpoint. Now, I've been speaking to people that aren't City fans on lives and stuff, and they all say we play nice stuff. And I think the fact that we're not scoring goals is the thing that we're focusing on. But at the minute, the problem is that there doesn't seem to be a real understanding of what Volta wants to do. I think he should have tried to gradually get his style across to the players. Now, I always stand by the mantra that a good manager is someone who gets the best out of the players he's got. Now, you've got to have adaptability. You've got to have variations in the system you play, depending on who you're against, what players you've got available, height, strength, technicality, all that kind of thing. You've got to change the way you play. These managers nowadays, it's always, this is my way of playing. This is the way we're going to stick to it. And at the minute, I think he probably should have come in and just said, right, look, the squad's really not ready. We need to sort of go back to doing the basics, go maybe a bit more direct, try and get some points on the board, get a bit of good feeling going, and then gradually start to get his style more and more across as the season goes on. Being in the position we're in is not entirely bad because Middlesbrough were bottom this point last year and they look where they finished. So it is possible to turn it around. The problem is it just doesn't look like we're going to turn it around at the minute.
That's a point
I
was
feel
gonna
like
make about about Nottingham Forest a few years ago.
Coventry did it as well.
Yeah, it is possible to turn it round, but we just sort of like haven't got any hope at the minute.
Yeah.
And
The positive thing is, I think that this isn't what he wants us to play like. So I think the problem is either he's struggling to get across what he wants to do with the players, or they're just really struggling to adapt to what he wants them to do. This clearly isn't the style of football that he was brought into play. And that to me says that we've got so much more improving to do. So it cannot, I would hope, not get worse than it is. The only 2 games we've lost are to 2 teams that, let's be honest, are going to be in a promotion race. They are Premier League standard teams that we've lost to. We didn't lose the other games. It's the lack of goals which people are concerned about. It's the fact, but then again, we're directing all our anger at a manager when he's inherited a complete mess. Like, a lot of responsibility needs to be on Adrian's shoulders, or whoever was responsible for the recruitment this year. We didn't have a head of recruitment for God knows how long throughout that window. So who was responsible for bringing in the players? The fact that Adrian was over at Fenerbahce sorting out them instead of us meant that we got all our transfer business done really late in the window. When we'd already played 2 or 3 competitive games, that's when we started bringing players in. So we can't realistically expect them to just hit the ground running in a brand new league, a brand new country, with brand new players under a brand new manager and a brand new system instantly. No manager is coming in and doing any better than what Walter's done, I don't think. You probably get better performances, but it's a complete squad upheaval. We lost 20 players in the summer and brought in 16 new. Who's coming in and making that like instantly stick? Nobody is. And who's available at the minute? Like, it's the problem is he's inherited a complete mess.
I don't think the question is who's available at the minute. I mean, you've just mentioned about how he doesn't want to be, like, Tim Walter does not want to be playing this style of football, whatever's going on now. He doesn't want. But then obviously to go off that and then say on Sky Sports that it's the best game we've played, it just really isn't ideal. And I think he's got. So you've got what's the next game? You've got Stoke, then you've got Cardiff at home, and then
Stoke,
you've got
Cardiff, and QPR, Norwich away, then an international.
If we don't beat Cardiff, then there's a real problem, because we always beat Cardiff.
If we do not beat Cardiff at home, he's gone. He has to go. If we don't get a win, honestly, if we don't get a win against Stoke, or a win or a draw, right, and he loses and he gets a loss against Cardiff, right, he's gone. He has to go. There's no if or buts. He has to go. There's no way.
They should have sorted the real issue was not sorting the goal scorers out first. The transfer window is the problem for me. It really is. The summer has been absolutely chaotic. This insistence on this insistence on saying, "Oh, I'm not going to stand in players' ways and letting, if they want to go to a Premier League team, we're going to let them go, whatever." The current situation, that's fine usually. If a Premier League team's after one of you good players and you know you're going to keep the bulk of your team together, then fair play, let them go. But when everyone is going to leave, you shouldn't be letting them go till you've brought in a suitable replacement. And we were just going, go enjoy your Premier League dream. We'll just clean up after. As soon as we got the money for Philogene and for Greaves and for Tufan and for anybody that we sold, the first thing we should have done was goal scorer. We've got no goals in the team. Connolly's gone, Delap's gone, Philogene's gone, Cavallio's gone. Literally all of our goals were gone. We should have got goal scorers first. The 2 wingers, the striker, everything should have been first, and then you fill in the team around it. We started the season with no goal scorers and then wondered why we couldn't score goals. And then we brought in all of the supposed goal scorers really late in on the window. And they're, like the 2 wingers, for example, they've just been chucked straight in against Sheffield United for their debut, having never played with any of the players around them. And we're expecting him to make an instant impact. Realistically, I think he's probably going to get till the international break in October. I think if we're still in the bottom 3 or haven't won, he'll use the international break to get rid of him. And
it's about 4 or 5 or...
Well,
yeah. So if we win, the thing is, it changes. If we get a point against Stoke and beat Cardiff, or 2 wins, whatever, it starts to look a bit better and people change the tune. It's because we've been so bad throughout 2024 that we're all just fed up. I know last season watching us at home was just an agonising and frustrating experience because we were dire at home last season. But this season, just at the minute, seemed worse. So it's like, we sacked Rosinia, who was there were a lot of things to work on his system, but he was a reasonably stable manager. And then gone totally left field and gambled on Tim Volter, who plays this very bizarre style of football that admittedly we're yet to see, but promised entertainment. And if not, we're worse. So we've come to the ground and we're still losing games, and we've even lost the goal aspect of things. We're not grinding out 1-0 or 1-1s anymore.
Yeah,
we're just losing.
There's nothing entertaining about his style of football. Like we was promised an aggressive, lots of goals. Even if we lose 3-2, we've gone to Hull, we've watched a good game, right? But we're not even getting that. Joe said it himself. Where are the goals coming from? Where, who are our top defenders that are going to stop this attack? Like attackers in the Championship. The Championship this season is really tough. You've just seen Plymouth won Sunderland 3-2. These teams that you'd expect maybe to go down this season. They're picking up points, and we're second to last in the league. And yeah, it's very, very early, but for a team like Hull City that was pushing for the playoffs, to where we are now, it's really not good. He's got 2 games in him, and he has to win against either Stoke or Cardiff. If not, he's gone.
Christian, we've dominated the discussion on this.
Yeah.
You know what? It's because I'm listening to all of you, and
you've just sort of sat back and listened.
I have, yeah, and
Just
you know what? I've digested. Let's call it. Cardiff. If we don't win or get something at Cardiff, the fans will be after blood, 100%.
What do you think about Stoke? Can I just ask?
Stoke, look, we need a draw. We need a draw. People will be upset if we lose, 100%. You're obviously going to be upset if you lose a bloody football game. You didn't want to win every single one. But Cardiff is the big one. Cardiff is that game. Stoke at the moment have always been that middle team. I think we're beginning to look at it as we are a club that's minimum target is mid-table. And we are nowhere near that. And if we lose to Cardiff, who are currently right down there, that's when fans will be after blood. Now, will he be gone after that? No. As Ant said, I think we're going to wait to the next international break. I think we're going to get up to that. I think he's going to hold off. And only because of that full rebuild. And it's not just the players that we've got in and out. It is the staff as well. It's absolutely everything. Literally everyone is learning something new. Because of the delay in the transfer window, yes, that is a huge problem that we've had to deal with. And this is one of the repercussions because of that we're dealing with now. Do I feel like we could have got business done earlier? Some aspects, yes. But realistically, on the players that we were targeting, could we have got them early in the window? No. The targets that we were after were at bigger clubs where other clubs were waiting for sales in and out before they can make a decision on that type of player that's going to be coming to us. That's why it's always left late for us. And unfortunately, because we're after a pedigree of player, it's a gamble. And the gamble didn't pay off this time. It did not pay off. And so that's why we've got that amount of players we've got now, and we're still screaming about a striker.
Yeah.
Akun says this transfer window was the best yet, and he rates it 8 out of 10 on his Q&A on Thursday.
Is that what he said?
8 out of 10 he ranked it.
What planet is he on?
So he goes, he admits a big name striker was close, but something happened that we are unable to talk about. But it says the money was there to spend, and we'll look to do so now in January if the right opportunity comes along.
Well,
I pleased with the look of the squad,
January,
especially in goal, midfield, and out wide. So he stated he's happy everywhere but up top. He said it was 8 out of 10, and they're going to wait till January now.
Well, I also heard him say on that Q&A that we're strong, that pretty much we're stronger in every area of the pitch than, well, apart from up top, than we were last week.
I'd say,
which is absolutely nonsense. The only position in which we've got stronger that last season to this is in goal, because we've got 3 of them. And
I think we
saying
just.
that, I reckon the thing that happened with the striker that he's not going to talk about is they offered the money to Chelsea for David Datro Fofana. I think he saw the offer from Hull and says, no, I'm not going to Hull. I think that's what happened, what Adrian, quote, isn't allowed to speak about. But because he's taken the risk of getting rid of Liam Rosenior and bringing in Tim Walter, I've starred this comment for when I could ask this question on its own. There's a reason I didn't put it on screen. Simon Wilson, here's your comment. How much longer and how many more games does Adrian give Tim Walter?
Yep, so I'm saying 2. But I'm going to say he's going to give... How many should he, or how many do we believe he's going to give? That's...
I think Okun will give more because he doesn't want to... The fact that he's got rid of Liam Rosenior and brought in Tim Walter, he's going to want to give him some time just because of his own ego. He wants to believe that Tim Walter's going to work. But the truth of the fact is it's not working. His system doesn't work in the Championship.
Is it players that doesn't work in the Championship with his, or is it him? Is it his tactic that isn't working in the Championship, or is it the players not buying into his tactic? What is it? That's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I believe it's a mix of both, to be honest. I don't think it can just be one-sided. You can't just be like, these players are going to play really well under Tim. It's just a bit of both. And like I say, it's only a matter of time before... I mean, the fans are already turning against him. Imagine if we get a draw against Stoke and maybe a draw against Cardiff. It's 2 points against 2 teams that, at the start of the season, you'd be expecting 3. And this is why I say 2 games, because after that, you've got QPR and Norwich, who, I mean, they're not playing great, but they are as bad as us in Cardiff. So
I think what's scary for me is what we're saying here and what the fans are saying are all in unison with respect to short corners, respect to bypassing the midfield, with respect to how we look at the back and building from the back. We're saying Rossi Ball with the building from the back, yet Rossi Ball looked more entertaining than what we were promised. And
that was a low bar.
And that was a low bar, exactly. But yet every fan is saying it. And this is the problem we've got at the moment with all these things coming in together with the full rebuild and everything. It's a struggle for us now at this moment in time. We're going to have to obviously be patient. Are we going to be patient? I doubt it. Obviously, what Hull City fan is really. But I think it is going to be... The season is going to be defined with Walters up to the international break, and I do not see him making past if he doesn't get at least... He has to have a win, but it can't be surrounded by losses. It's got to have stability. And
it's got to be out of the next 4, a win, maybe 2, and the rest all draws.
Yeah. It's got to be that. It has to be.
It's interesting because Adrian's nailed his close to the flag by making such a decision. So I feel like he probably needs to back him as much as he can, because
it's his claim, isn't it? We're saying that attacking football, I don't care if we lose.
But if that's what makes it interesting, because he made the decision to get rid of Rosenior because of the style of football. He wanted it to be more entertaining. Brought in Volta to bring us this heart attack, goal fest, game by game kind of gaffer, and we're not getting that. So if it comes to the end of next month and we've still not won a game, we're still not scoring goals, then by Adrian's own logic, Volta should be going, because he's not providing the entertainment. He's not come in and done what he said he was going to do, and he'll have to admit defeat on it for me. But it's harsh because he's inherited an absolutely chaotic mess of a club. But that being said, you still want to look for promising signs, for sprouts of optimism, and there just really isn't at the minute. You're struggling to look at who's on that pitch and saying who's going to score goals at the minute. You might as well put Coyle up front because he looks more offensive than anybody on that pitch. It's just, why is our right back probably odds on to be top scorer this season. He's the only person who looks like he's going to score goals, and that something has to change. So Adrian's going to have that chat.
He's the only person who has scored a goal for us in the league this season at the club. We've scored 2 in the league. We've sold half of them to Mexico without a replacement. My tweet after the game was brief flashes of promise, but that's all they were. Good passes into promising areas, but no second pass or finish. Things look bleak at this stage. There's still time for the group to gel, of course, but at this moment in time, I cannot see where a goal comes from. And I think, Ant, you're right. Adjan has to, if this doesn't work, Adjan has to take all of the blame. And for the situation we're in now, where players were brought in late and Walter's inherited what this is, he has to take some of the blame. It's not just Tim Walter, it's not just the players, it's Adjan as well for taking his eye off the ball and what have you. Another thing that I'd like to say just finally on this, well, you make the point there, IBD Warlord, that Maitland was literally a couple of centimetres away from scoring, but it was the only proper clear-cut chance we had all game, and it took us 72 3/4 minutes to get it. And
I want to throw a spanner in the works to it though as well. But we're throwing a lot of blame at the manager and a lot of heat towards the manager. And I think realistically, and as much as I love Adrian, and this isn't me saying that he needs to sell up and go by all means, I think since he's come in, we constantly have a transfer window with massively high turnover. And when you look back, like I didn't even realise properly till I think I was watching some of the games on Sky this weekend, and how much every other team has near enough the same 11 with a couple of different players every season, whereas we're completely different every year. And it's not that, to me, isn't sustainable. Like, is there some, to me, like the club hierarchy have to now maybe change their approach, because I think they've just gone gung-ho, hell for leather every transfer window thinking, yeah, it's all right, they're all crap, get rid of them, we'll just get loads of new ones in. And you can't keep doing that every year, because there is no stability at the club then. It's constantly different. Players don't know if they're coming or going. You don't see a long-term future there. I know this transfer window, we've recruited more younger players on longer-term deals. We've been a bit more savvy about it. So hopefully this doesn't happen again in the summer. But it's since they've come in, it's just been completely different every single season. And there is no spine of the team that remains, kind of thing. Like, obviously, Coyle, Jones, Maka, they're like the few survivors from the last few years. And they're arguably our most consistent performers, which tells you everything, because they're here, they understand it, they've been there, and they just sort of get used to new players every single year. And it can be unsettling for players to constantly be having to change who they're playing alongside and things like that. So I think in terms of hierarchy and structure, I think we have to change a little bit and be a bit more savvy going forwards, especially in transfer windows, because we can't keep doing this.
Yeah, no, I think we're obviously coming to a bit of a close. So I think last words from myself, like I say, we've got the 2 games. We've got Stoke, and Cardiff. And if he's not picking up 3, 4 points, whatever that looks like, then he has to go. I don't think Akun will get rid of him, but as a fan aspect, I will be 100% sure that he will have to go. But like you've mentioned about international break, I feel like that probably will be, I think after Norwich, that'll probably be when, okay, is Akun actually maybe looking for someone else now? Getting rid of Rozzy, probably the biggest mistake we've done. And with the income that we brought into the club from Greavesy, Philogene, etc., the players the money we've reinvested into the club just hasn't been that well. And I think we can all kind of agree on that. I'm not saying it's been absolutely dire, but it's not really been great. So obviously just see what happens come Friday and see what happens against Cardiff. But I mean, I'd give it them 2 games. So
final thing from me is I've seen it mentioned in chat, and Baz Cooper mentioned it as well. When Walter's on the touchline, and every time a player makes a mistake, he's spinning his arms about and he's storming off to the dugout and what have you.
Yeah,
that can't be encouraging for players, surely. And
he came across as saying he was going to be animated.
It's horrible.
I think in this kind of day and age of what footballers are, exactly. It's going to be downheartening for players to see that on the pitch, looking over the sideline. But he did come with a warning label. He did. And he did say he was going to be animated. His arms are going to be everywhere. And I think I look at it and go, it's just Walters. It's just Walters kicking off. That's how I look at it. If the players don't look at it as, it's just Walters kicking off, all right, I made him say blah, blah, blah. If they take it to heart, then that is going to be a morale thing, Joe. I think he's spot on at bringing that up. I think that is something that does get overlooked in the day and age of actual championship football, is how the manager's reactions are and how the players will perceive it. It's something that doesn't get brought up a lot either, actually. So bravo, bring up that one. But I think from us on the mentality side as fans, we were warned his arms will be flailing like a little butterfly. He's literally like that every 2 seconds, and we were told it was going to happen. So
he's not just doing it for the team; he's doing it.
He's doing it for the fans.
He's doing
it sure.
You think he's doing it because he didn't make that run or he didn't pass there. He's doing it to show the fans that as we've mentioned,
he cares and he's got something in his head.
Yeah, it's not happening. What he pitches in his head is not happening on that pitch. And to be honest with you, I don't really believe it. I feel like he's just not that good of a manager. And for the championship, I think he is a good manager. But like I said, for the championship, So.
I don't mind it, me. I don't understand why people are concerned if he shows visible frustration. If I'm a player on the pitch and I'm not doing what I was told to do, I would expect to look to the touchline and see frustration. If I make a mistake, especially one that ends up in a goal, why would giving him a little cuddle and mollycoddle? And I know that was Rosini's style, which is maybe what people are latching onto. But as a football player, this is your job. Like, he is your manager. He tells you what you're meant to be doing. If you make a mistake, then that's your responsibility. I want to see that kind of passion, frustration. That tells me, and that's the only positive I'm getting from at the minute, the current situation, is that we are not playing what he wants us to do. And we can see that because he's really miffed with what he's watching on the pitch. The problem with that is, why aren't they playing the way he wants to play? Where's the issue? Why is that not translating across onto the training pitch, onto the actual pitch? That's what needs to be solved at the minute, because we're clearly not seeing the style of player that Volta's meant to be bringing us. But the visible frustration stuff on the sideline, I get it. We show visible frustration in the stands every week. Why are we allowed to flail our arms around at the crowd, the players, and boo them off and stuff? But the manager's not allowed to do it. He's in charge of them. He should be demanding respect from those players and getting the best out of them. I don't mind it. I don't get it. There's loads of managers that are animated on the sideline, and they get the best out of their players. Guardiola, all the time. They can win 4-0, and the guy's livid.
I'm not against him being an animated kind of manager on the touchline. It's just when you're not. Someone just mentioned about Klopp does it. Well, Klopp wins games. Yeah, we're not winning games. That's the big difference. Yeah. So
yeah, I see that side of it. Totally. Look, we've gone for an hour and 10 minutes, so the Stoke preview won't be long. We haven't got Nathaniel. We haven't got Nathaniel's combined lineup to go over tonight. So, Stoke, what do we expect? Christian, you can start.
Currently praying for like every week at the moment, you pray for a win, aim for the draw, expect the loss. I think I do. That's where I'm at. Yeah, I think Giles is going to be the one off. I think Giles is going to be subbed out. I don't think Burns will start this week either. I don't think Burns is going to, unless he pulls out McLaughlin and puts Burns as centre back, which I don't see happening.
I wouldn't mind that, to be fair.
It's a possibility to happen. Yeah, it's something I won't mind. Wings. Is he going to stick with what he started with, or is he going to go out with Miller? That's the
Miller
big
will
one.
come straight in. That's the easiest decision.
Exactly. So who is it on the right? That is where your argument starts. You've got to think Belloumi, quality. But then Cam, he can cut in as well and hit it with his left. And that's one of his techniques. It's one of his most popular techniques. And like I said, people are screaming for him to be on the right.
I'm happy to see Mohamed Belloumi on the right again. I'm honestly, I don't think he played too bad at all. I don't think he saw too much of the ball, and I think he'll probably play Miller, Belloumi, and just Bedia. I think it'll be the same. It'll be the same idea as Sheffield United. There'll be obviously a few changes, but you'll see.
I'm expecting Palmer. I'll be honest with you. I am expecting Palmer.
Is he going to play Palmer though? Is he seeing what we're seeing?
I think he drops Abush.
I do.
Yeah, I do as well.
He's going to drop Abush. Yeah, I do. Especially against Stoke.
I'd like to see Kamara start personally. I think
it's a cold, rainy night at Stoke.
I've seen enough. I've seen enough from and heard enough from Portsmouth fans about how good Kamara is, and they were absolutely desperate as a club to bring him in. They just couldn't quite compete with us when it came to wages and stuff, apparently, so that they were never really in the race. But he was phenomenal for them last season. Granted, it was the level below. We've seen that with Scott Twine. 10 goals, 11 assists he got from the right-hand side. He's actually taller than I expected him to be, so it gives us a little bit more of a threat in the air. I was very surprised about how tall he was. You're not used to wingers being that fast, but also that tall. But yeah, I would like to see Kamara, just think, because he's played in the English leagues. It's more of a way at Stoke kind of changed than having Belloumi there. It's Belloumi, I see... he didn't really contribute that much in the game. He had the cross-come shot that was nearly diverted in. He obviously was caught on the ball for the first goal, but again, it was a really tough game for him to come in, so I can't really say about how much his performance was. He was there. He got better. But Sheffield United did naturally drop deeper as the game went on, which gave us more time and space on the ball anyway. But I would personally, I'd bring Kamara in on the right. I'd have loved to have seen Hughes brought in, but obviously we can't play him at the minute. So Kamara on the right, probably Palmer on for Abush, I think would be a nice positive change and a reward for his performance. I thought Slater played well when he came on as well, but I'd probably still keep him off. Zambrano in for Burns, and then Drama in for Giles would be the changes I make. He might actually bring Rushworth in as well. That's worth a mention.
Yeah,
big change come Friday. There'll be a lot of new players on that pitch that we haven't started yet. So yeah, curious to see.
All right. Scores then. I agree with what you're all saying about those are the likely changes. Zambrano coming in, Kamara right, Miller coming in on the left, Palmer in for Abush. I can't see anything more than a 0-0. So
I might go with you on that one.
That's what I think.
It's either going to be a 0-0
or a 1-1.
Or a 1-1, when that 1-1 will come from some sort of scramble from us. It won't be anything spectacular. It'll be a scramble somehow. And it'll be some cross that hits that front post.
Oh, we have so little faith. We have so little faith on the left-hand side of your screen. Moving over to the right. Tom.
Look, I'm really not like... I like to be positive to an extent, but look, I think they're going to win 2-0. I don't think we're scoring a goal, and I think it's going to be another 2-0 defeat. They did us 2-0 last time. We've just lost 2-0, and I feel like it's going to be another 2-0 defeat. I don't see a win. I really don't see it. I wish I could say we can nick a draw, but yeah.
And anything different to us?
It kills me, but I feel like we're going to get hammered, you know. I'm really worried. For me, it has. I just think the feeling around the club, the pressure on the players, the pressure on the manager. I just think there's with it being a Friday night at Stoke, they will be looking at us and going, "That's 3 points. We're there for the taking at every team." I look at our team. I can't say who's going to score. We were joking about this in the stand, and I've said this multiple times on this, but Louis Coyle is our right back, and he's our most offensive threat. And that is a real problem going into a championship season. I just feel like it's going to be a horrendous, like absolutely morale draining 3-0 Stoke. I hope I'm wrong.
Mate,
But
over 3, I won't be happy. Anything over 3,
Well,
and
if you came here, guys, for some
positivity and happiness.
Can I just say, I love to be the optimist. Tom says he loves to be the optimist. I'm sure we're all like that, but it's just so hard at the minute. And we'll end it there. Any final thoughts, anybody?
I've said what needs to be said.
Only time will tell. That is,
Okay.
it is. Only time will tell.
And
it's just tough being a City fan, isn't it? Can we just have one normal, stable season?
Give you a hug.
I'd take a nice, happy, uneventful mid-table season just once, just so we can just relax for a year. But it's just
at no risk of going down, at no risk of no chance of going up. It would be boring, but it would be quite fun at the same time. Thank you for watching, listening, everybody, and we will see you for Tigers Talk on Wednesday, which is sadly this week going to be pre-recorded. It's just something that AD's got on, which we can't help. It's work for him, and that obviously takes priority. So it will be pre-recorded. If you've got any questions for Tigers Talk, tweet me, tweet the podcast, tweet anybody. Not anybody, but as in someone who will see it.
Or the Discord. If anybody's not joined the Discord yet, we've got 231 people viewing this at the minute. If you head over to our X page, it's the pinned tweet. You just click the link, you can join the Discord. Christian, who is an absolute wizard with it, has souped it all up for us. It all looks very nice and professional and much better than what I did at the beginning.
More to finish off, but...
Yeah, so join the Discord, get involved in. There's match day threads, there's voice channels and everything. If you've got anything for any of the podcast ideas, if you've got questions and stuff to ask, drop over to the Discord and just pop some comments in there.
Yeah, like, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, follow whatever it is on Twitter /X. Is it add on Facebook? I don't know. I don't use it. So that's that. Thank you for watching, listening, everybody, and we will see you on Wednesday for Tigers Talk. Goodbye.